Welcome to the very first APF Records podcast. I'm your host, James Kidd, former Widows guitarist and APF Records alumnus, and I'm very much looking forward to getting this podcast and all the amazing bands on APF Records into your ears across the coming months. Now, before I introduce our guests for the show, let's fill you in on what this podcast is about and the idea behind the whole thing. You're likely here because you're already in the know about the APF Records label, but for those of you just stumbling randomly across this podcast for the first time, I'm going to help you out. APF Records is an independent label based in Manchester, UK, housing some of the finest purveyors of heavy riffs in the UK underground sludge, doom, grind and stoner scenes. With over 50 releases from a roster of 30 bands including Battalions, Barbarian Hermits, Corrupt Moral Altar, Desert Storm, Pissed, Mastiff and Video Nasties, APF Records has quickly become a name to know if you like your riffs with some fucking balls. Each episode will feature guests from APF bands who have an upcoming release on the label, and we'll be talking about that release, life on the road, studio stories and how they're staying sane during the pandemic. Now you're all up to speed, let's introduce our very first guests on the APF podcast, Ryan and Elliot Cole from recent signings Wall. Fellas, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, mate.
Probably got a few listeners out there in podcast land that are thinking these names sound a bit familiar. If you don't know already, both of these chaps are infirm APF favourites Desert Storm and the Grand Mel, and already responsible for, a good decade's worth of heavy riffs by now?
Yeah. Desert Storm is 13 years now?
So, we're making history today with the very first APF Records podcast. How does it feel to be part of history? And more importantly, how has the pandemic been treating you both this year?
It's good to be the people on the podcast. That's cool. A lot of great stuff on APF at the minute.
Yeah, fair.
As for the pandemic, it's shite. That's why we started this. We were so bored, but started writing at the start of lockdown in March. Didn't have any amps or drum kit in the little flat that we were sharing at the time. So I was just playing my guitar unplugged, and Elliot was tapping out the drum rhythms on his lap. And then went into the studio kind of hoping it'd be cool.
Like a Desert Storm unplugged.
Yeah.
Was that difficult doing it like that? Obviously, you kind of had to add the distortion in your head and the snare sounds and whatever in your
I think it was harder.
Along.
I think it was harder for me when we come to record it, because at least with Ryan, he played it properly on the guitar, but for me it was just straight into recording all the drum kit, and it was a little bit different to playing on our lap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, soon figured out how to do it properly, and a couple of takes.
Obviously, with you saying you had no amps and no gear to write on or anything like that, and I understand from your bio, this band came about whilst you were furloughed. Essentially, yeah. Like you say, you started off writing stuff in March and that kind of thing when the furlough and the lockdown properly hit. I think we played with Widows. We played the very last show at the Corp, literally the night before they were going to shut down for all of this, which was pretty cool. We'd always wanted to play Corp, which was nice. But
cool.
But it was weird hearing them all talking about it's going to shut down, because until then we were a bit is it gonna really?
Yeah.
Is it as bad as they say it is? And then obviously, all the pros at Corp, like the stage manager and the boss and whatever, were all talking about this is the last show, and we were like, oh fuck, it's serious.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't really know what to expect at first, did you?
No,
how
that's
bad it was going to be.
Because we've not really had. I don't remember having anything like this. Not in my lifetime here, anyway.
No.
Obviously we had stuff like mad cow disease and swine flu and all the bird flus and whatever. But that was just go and eat that specific thing for a little bit and you'll be all right. As opposed to no, stay in your home.
Yeah, it's pretty weird now.
Lockdown and the movement restrictions that were in place and whatever are going to present you some new challenges to writing and rehearsal and whatnot that we've probably not had to deal with, any of us, before. Fortunately, you were sharing a flat at the time, so the kind of mixing of households wasn't really an issue per se, but you didn't really have any gear. How did you get around that? Did you record any demos whilst you were doing it, or even with just a little iPhone on the side?
We did some videos on our phone just so we'd Ryan remember the riffs, and I'll remember my drum patterns or whatever. So
keep structures in order and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because sometimes it's easy to forget if you leave it a while. So
no, fully. Especially if it's not like been fully drilled into you at that point. So when it came to actually recording the EP, were you able to do it as a group? Because how many people are in the band?
Yeah, it's just us.
Just you two, yeah. Okay, cool.
So Ryan played bass on the EP as well.
How did you go about recording it in the studio? Did you do it as a group in the studio with an engineer like you would normally do, or did you have to engage in some more kind of like sneaky tactical maneuverings?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it was just us two and Jimmy, the engineer. I'm pretty sure by the time we kind of actually went to track it, I think they were sort of saying that you could kind of mix with a certain amount of
like support bubble or whatever it is.
Yeah, something like that. So it was all right, and we were all keeping our distance. Like, it was not just nice to like keep busy for a few days and do it, really. So
yeah, like getting back to a little bit of like normality that you'd no doubt missed.
Yeah.
Now our dear leader, Mr. Andrew Field, head of APF Records, is releasing the EP on, is it the 15th of January? I've got down here.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So how many tracks have you got altogether?
5 tracks, I think.
It's 5, yeah. So a proper
4,
EP then.
Yeah, it's like 4 of our own songs, and we did a cover of Black Sabbath Electric Funeral as well.
Yes, so. I love that song.
Great song, yeah. Hopefully we did it justice.
Right, so you got 5 tracks on there. Are they all separate entities, or is there like a concept behind the whole thing, like a story arc? And what kind of genres would you say you cover on this release? Because obviously, like Desert Storm and Grand Mal, you've got your feet under the table with those particular styles. But are you branching out on anything new with Wall?
Bit more noise and I don't know, really. Like
sludgy and doomy, innit?
Yeah, a little more abrasive.
You can definitely hear it in like Desert Storm as well. It's sort of. I suppose this EP is probably more like Desert Storm.
Yeah,
like the heavy bit than it is the Grand Mal. Obviously, you've got Dave from the Grand Mal doing the vocals in the Sabbath cover. Yeah, it's just riffs, really. Riffs and noise and...
Nice.
Some of the song structures are obviously a bit shorter because we would usually maybe like make certain sections longer.
Yeah.
Like Matt or Dave vocally, we've obviously shortened it because it can get a bit boring at times if it's just,
long sections without vocals. Yeah.
Right, so by now our listeners are probably wondering what the EP sounds like after all this chat about it. So we're going to hit you with the first of 2 tracks. So do you want to do the honours and tell the good people what they're about to hear for track 1?
This is the first song on the EP. It's called Wrath of the Serpents, and it was the first single we put out. And if you haven't heard it, then listen now.
Cool. Wrath of the Serpent. Let's go. And we're back. And that was Wall with Wrath of the Serpent from their eponymous debut EP out on APF Records on the 15th of January. Now, at this point, normally, without a pandemic going on, I'd ask you, hey guys, so what shows have you got coming up where people can catch you live and, you know, hear tunes from the new release and whatnot? But obviously, with the current restrictions on live events at the moment, going out on the road hasn't been an option for any of us for most of 2020. And it's looking like 2021 is going to be largely the same. So obviously, it's going to be hard to promote a release without shows. So are you doing anything special to help promote the EP? Like some videos or some special edition merch, or maybe a live stream gig from your practice room, anything like that?
To be honest, we should probably start thinking about it. But yeah, probably we're going to just do a live stream gig or something.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
A very long one because we haven't got many songs, but yeah, that's all we can do, isn't it? So
yeah, man. I mean, like I've noticed a lot of bands sort of over the pandemic, especially when the lockdown calmed down a little bit over summer. A lot of people jumped straight in the rooms and started doing like live streams of practices and stuff like that, and it seemed to go down really well. Like,
they're cool. They're interesting.
I mean, being a musician myself, it's sort of like band practice gets a little boring sometimes because you are just drilling the same stuff to make it good for, you know, when you're showing people live. So it's a bit of a busman's holiday watching another band rehearse if you are a musician. But if you just record by in public, miss gigs, miss your favorite bands, it's an amazing little like insight, a little fly on the wall, kind of opportunity for them there. So aside from kind of writing and releasing this album, this EP, how have you both been staying sane over lockdown? Are you missing shows like so many of the rest of us in the UK? And have you been up to any non-musical shenanigans to keep things interesting for yourselves?
Both of us have been missing the live stuff and a lot, you know, really. And we've had to cancel like 2 of our tours, which we were looking forward to doing, which was annoying. But that's the same for most bands, you know. And, But I mean, me and Ryan, we're both chefs, and we have been lucky enough to still be working for a lot of it. So it's kind of kept us busy, at least, you know, and giving us something to do. So
that's a plus at least. So you're not sitting at home like just going stir crazy, cabin fever.
Exactly.
Yeah, we did a live stream gig with Desert Storm and then the Grand Mal, and then we managed to do a couple of socially distanced gigs in London as well with Desert Storm.
Yeah, I heard about those.
Yeah,
they were really good actually. At the Black Heart. I mean, obviously,
how are you going to socially distance at the Black Heart? It's tiny.
Yeah,
it was like 45 people or something, and like they're only doing group tickets, so you've got to be in that sort of bubble with that person.
Right, okay.
They've distanced the benches and stuff out in there. And the way all the lights are, they go proper heavy on the lights, so you can't really sort of see that much anyway. So it really does feel like it could be a proper gig. It doesn't really matter that there's...
Oh, it's wicked, man. I'm glad they managed to pull something like that off. I did wonder what the experience would be like, certainly.
Yeah, we were a bit sceptical at first, but definitely worked. It was cool.
Because I've seen they'd been doing some stuff on the continent in Europe with like drive-in gigs, you know, like a drive-through cinema where you just park up and watch the band kind of thing, which seemed pretty cool. But I can imagine if you were going to have a circle pit, that'd just turn into a crash. So what have you been listening to over lockdown? Have you discovered any hidden gems at all?
I mean, I've listened to a lot of the new APF releases, obviously.
Like Beggar was cool, and
the Brothers Keg, and what else came out? Sound of Origin. Yeah,
there was some other sweet releases from like Elephant Tree and
that new Elephant Tree's
brilliant,
incredible.
Psychonaut, their new album's really good. Sigeria, their album was good.
Oh wow, Sigeria, cool.
But yeah, we've been listening to stuff. It's quite, I suppose that's one of the benefits from this lockdown is you actually get quite a lot of time to explore new music, really, and new releases that you might have perhaps missed, or things go under the radar a bit when you're busy with work and shit.
Yeah, that's true.
10-Foot Wizard's good as well, actually.
I still need to get around to hearing that. I'm told it's really good, though.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'll be on that later this afternoon, I reckon.
Yeah, cool.
Going back onto records, what was the first records? Obviously, there's two of you, so there'll be probably two different answers here. But what was the first record you ever owned, like that you bought with your own money rather than like your nan gave you for Christmas? One that you were like, right, I've got this cash, and I'm going to definitely spend it on this one record.
I can't actually remember. I remember it was our 8th birthday, or it was Christmas when we were 8, and we both got bought Black Sabbath Paranoid and Alice Cooper, Beast of Alice Cooper. They were the first albums that really stick in my mind. We used to go to this record fair in Oxford, which was like once a month.
Yeah.
Lots of second-hand cheap CDs, and I think I probably got like, with my own money, it was probably like a Metallica record, or maybe ZZ Top Eliminator. I remember that was one of the first ones.
Sweet.
Maybe the Black Album for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah, a good choice, certainly. I know a lot of people talk smack on the Black Album, but I think that was the one that got me into Metallica, really.
Yeah.
Like, I can see why the old thrash heads didn't like it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a change in direction from Master and Justice, which they...
But I think the main thing for me was just sort of how big it sounded when I first heard it, compared to like a lot of thrash bands that they made a lot of racket, but it sounded like it was all in the high end kind of thing and very narrow. Whereas Metallica just sort of turned up and went, yeah, big balls.
Yeah.
When did you feel like you got the bug for this musician life? Were there any entertainers that inspired you kind of growing up that made you want to own your own craft? Like, kind of what was the turning point when you went, yeah, riffs, I want to do that shit with my life?
Tony Iommi and Iron Man, basically. Just, I was like, that's fucking cool. I remember hearing that song for the first time in like Budgeon's car park, and I just remember that riff to Iron Man. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, straight up.
Bill Ward, when I listened to Hand of Doom, his drumming in Hand of Doom, it was like the fills that he'd play were like almost like guitar licks. You could like hum along to them, and that was one of the things I really wanted. That made me want to like learn drums. We started learning at pretty much the same sort of time.
Bill Ward kind of played his drums a bit like you say, like a lead instrument almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So with that in mind, let's hear another track from the EP. Nice little segue from Black Sabbath into Black Sabbath cover. We've got Electric Funeral coming up. Now that was on, am I right in thinking that was on Paranoid, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, quality album. So let's hear Wall's version of Electric Funeral.
Skies, turned houses into skies.
And we're back, and that was Wall with their cover of Black Sabbath's Electric Funeral. This is the APF Records podcast with our special guests today, Ryan and Elliot Cole from the band Wall. And that was the last of our 2 tracks for this podcast. You can hear the whole EP when it's released on the 15th of January 2021 on APF Records via all of your usual sources. I'm assuming Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, APF Records web store. Yeah, several in others too innumerable to mention. All right, so this may be a little bit of a difficult one, but where do you see the genre that you play in progressing to? What kind of direction do you reckon it'll take in the next 5 years or so?
Oh, I don't know, really. Because it's instrumental, it's already quite hard to... I mean, obviously, you've got bands like Karma to Burn and, Colour Haze are really cool, but they're a bit more psychedelic, so, like, with their instrumental, I think it can reach a wider audience and maybe what we're going for. But, yeah, I mean, like we said, we just did it for fun, and hopefully people dig it. We've actually started recording 2 other songs that won't be on the EP, and they're a bit more like kind of thrash stuff.
Oh, fair play.
So we've definitely got more music coming, but it's just keep us busy, basically. Started writing new Desert Storm and Grand Mal stuff as well, so there's, yeah.
But yeah, leading on from that, what do you think is the future for the music industry as a whole, kind of thing, at our level? How do you see it adapting to the challenges that we'll be seeing when live events come back? The losses of small venues in the meantime, and the inexorable march of the internet and fucking Brexit.
I think it's going to take some time for it to get back to where it was. It's certainly going to be affected by this pandemic. It doesn't help that the government haven't really helped that much towards the independent venues, and with Brexit as well, just found out that it's going to be even harder to tour Europe as well.
Yeah, because I know I literally got a notification on my phone just before this started saying that all the other European states have unanimously agreed on the deal. But I don't know what the deal is. I haven't checked it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about it yet. I haven't really done much reading up on it, but yeah, it's certainly going to be a bit harder. And for bands like our sort of size, when we're just, we don't make a lot of money when we go out there. We sort of treat it more like a holiday, really.
That's it, yeah. You're just trying to sell merch and cover your fuel, isn't it? Some chips on the way.
Hopefully we'll still be able to do it. We just shipped a load of merch over to one of our friends who lives in Belgium, and hopefully we can, because I think you have to pay tax on a lot of it, import tax and export tax. So
yeah, that's going to change, certainly.
Yeah, by having our merch over there and maybe using like a Belgian number-plated van, we might be able to avoid all that sort of stuff.
There'll be ways and means. I mean, like, I was speaking to some of the old heads from like old punk bands around Nottingham who went and toured Europe in the 90s and 80s and 90s and stuff, like even before all the Schengen agreement. So it was like border crossings every time. What I mean? You start off in France and you go into Germany, that's like, 3-4 borders you're crossing, getting your van searched, doing your paperwork, blah, 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 blah. And they were all like, it's going to be a nightmare. You'll get used to it eventually. But sometimes there's just no way to know, like, how long you're going to get held up at border crossing. Never mind, like, if there's a crash that you don't know about 20 minutes down the road. Yeah,
sometimes they're long. I mean, I remember one time we were coming back. It was really quiet. It was like quite late at night, and they didn't need to do it, but you never know what they're going to do. And they literally just took everything out of the back of our van, all our gear, to make sure we weren't smuggling anything across or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, it was so unnecessary. But then they just felt like doing it because they were bored and obviously had nothing to do. And then we had to like...
Bored, see a van full of lads with beards.
Yeah, exactly. We just had to restack it, and it took ages. And
I mean, I've been really lucky all the times I've gone over. We've never really had much more than a cursory kind of just slide the door of the van open, lads, whilst I stick my head in here and make sure you haven't got like some AKs or anything like that. Basically, I think they're just trying to be seen to be doing stuff by the boss, you know what I mean? But I'm certainly not looking forward to trying to do it in the future with all the extra hassles and whatnot.
Yeah, it's going to be harder.
That's it. But yep, that's all we've got time for today, folks. However, we are doing a little giveaway for our listeners out there. The winner will get a free copy of the EP on release day on CD. Just answer the following question. Where are the Cole brothers from? A, Oxford, B, Halifax, or C, Brighton? To enter the giveaway, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/APFpod and leave your answer in the discussion on the event page for this episode. The contest closes at 5 p.m. Sunday the 10th of January, and a winner will be chosen at random and announced on our social media pages on Facebook at APF Records and APF Pod, and Instagram at APF Records and APF Podcast. So before we go, is there anything you guys want to plug? Any side hustles, any little businesses you're starting, anything you think people would want to know about, cool stuff your mates are doing to get by in lockdown, plug your pluggables, etc.?
First of all, I'll say, help us out and support us by buying the EP if possible, and keep tuning into this podcast too. Yeah. And obviously check out our other bands, Desert Storm and the Grand Mal. Yeah. And,
where can we find you? Obviously Bandcamp and the APF Records, but you got Facebook and Insta as well?
Yeah, it's all on there.
And Spotify as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. How could I forget Spotify?
Keep supporting the underground music scene, basically, everyone, because it needs it at the moment.
Certainly there's been a lot of good folks out there, because they can't get to gigs, they're spending the money they would normally spend on gigs, buying merch and CDs and whatnot from the bands, which is a real help, and we're all certainly massively grateful for that. Right, so this just leaves me to thank the boys from Wall, Ryan and Elliot, for joining us today, to thank Andrew Field of APF Records for letting me try out this podcast format, and to thank you, the listeners, for listening. Be sure to check out Wall's self-titled EP coming out on the 15th of January, and all the other bands at apfrecords.co.uk and on the APF Bandcamp page too. I'll be back in the second podcast talking to Indica Blues about their upcoming release in February, and you can subscribe to this podcast on whichever platform you're getting it from to be notified when the new episodes are up. You can follow the Cole Brothers exploits in Desert Storm and the Grand Mal on Facebook and Insta. And if you're really struggling for content on your social feeds, you can follow my effects pedal building shenanigans on Facebook and Insta under Fuzzbeard Industries. So, lads, it's been great having you. Thanks for helping us get the first podcast underway. And good luck with the EP release. Hopefully we'll see you out on the road soon.
Thanks, mate.
Awesome. Take care, boys.